Hello, everybody, and welcome back to At the Movies with William Fletcher. I am your host, William Fletcher, and this week I'm joined by Kitty
Hello.
again. Um, and so this week we will be covering the nominees for Best Picture this week. So it's going to be 8 films we're going to go through, which is going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just say we should try and keep it spoiler free because a lot of these are like relatively like new films, and I don't know if
Yeah.
everyone has seen them. So we're gonna warn if there is spoilers, and we'll probably delve and touch on spoilers, but we're gonna try and avoid it as best as we can.
Okay.
So do you have any like general opinions on the Oscars and like film awards rather in general?
Well, not as bad as the Grammys, I'll tell you that much, but I think it's quite an outdated practice. Oh, I don't know. I find it's usually fine, but there haven't been a lot of surprises since the old La La Land Moonlight incident. But
Oh, jeez,
yeah,
yeah,
usually no complaints. Like
yeah,
it's fine.
yeah. Um, yeah, I think that sort of this uh hmm. last year was not too bad. Like some good stuff happened last year, you know.
Yeah, it's fine.
But then the year before that, it was Green Book as Best Picture winner, which is not.
I never ended up seeing that.
I haven't seen either of them, but I just know that Green Book is the one nobody like. Well, is the controversial one.
Mm.
But so for this year, I've seen all the Best Picture nominees, as you, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're just gonna talk about them. Is there any particular order you want to do this in? Do you want to just go like alphabetical, or is there like a specific way you want to do this?
Maybe I want to hear like your ranking, like your list, and maybe we just talk about them like
Mm,
from that.
right. Okay. Well, because I was gonna do that at the end, give my full ranking of the
Oh
Best
yeah.
Picture nominees. So I've also
Do you want to hear
just
mine then?
yeah, sure. We'll start with yours and then we'll do mine at the end.
Okay. All right. So I made two lists. I made a
Yeah.
best picture ranking
Yeah.
for films that I like want to get best picture and think I should win that, and then I actually made a second list
Mm.
for how much I enjoyed each one
Yes.
because I think it's actually like a little bit different,
Yeah. You did
and
send
like
me
I yeah.
these.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, so I'll just state my list. For
Yeah.
Best Picture, first, Meanery, second, The Father, third,
Mhm.
Sound of Metal, fourth, Promising Young Woman, fifth, Nomadland, sixth, Judas and the Black Messiah, seventh, Mank, and then eighth, Trial of the Chicago Seven. And I think the only differences in my enjoyment ranking are I put Promising Young Woman second,
Mhm.
and I put Mank last, and
Mm.
that's like the main difference.
Yeah. Um. All right. So, do we want to go in that order, or should we? Because I've got a random like sort of order generator here,
Oh
and
yeah, we can do that.
I could just put them in there, and then we can just talk about it from there because
That
that's
sounds
just
fun.
more interesting.
Yeah.
And also at the end of this, if you want, we can just sort of talk about like predictions for certain categories.
Mhm.
Because I've got some thoughts on subcategories. But give me a second. So I'm just gonna do just one randomize and then just see what is first.
Okay.
So first, so I'm just gonna go off this order. So first off is Nomadland.
Okay. I think this might be controversial.
All right. Can I actually say before we started, I was looking at the ratings I gave the Best Picture nominees, and I did change some, and I did change the ranking for some of these films. So it was different, but some
Mm.
have gone up in ratings and some have gone down. So I'll just say
What
that
were your
first.
initial thoughts of Nomadland?
Um, I put it a lot higher than I feel like it probably should have been. Um,
Mm.
I it's not bad. Like it is good, but I just kind of feel it's rather aimless, and there's
Yeah,
no plot to it. Honestly.
yeah, I agree. I found throughout, like sitting in the cinema, I was like checking the time. I was like, oh, this is a bit
Mm,
boring. But I think Chloe Zhao's directing was really amazing. Thought
mm,
that
yeah.
aspect was great. But in terms of like pacing and the actual plot or
Mm,
lack thereof is an issue.
yeah. Yeah. I think that this is maybe the most sort of meandering kind of like film. Like, it's the one with the least plot of the
Mm.
nominees. I would argue. I and it's kind of I kind of like the idea of it. Sort of, it's just sort of following one character and sort of her journey and sort of going to all these different like places, and I think that's fine, and I think that I like that as a concept. But I also think that it wasn't gripping enough, and I do think it had,
Yeah,
yeah, there just wasn't, um, a real story to get invested in. Like all the other
yeah.
nominees had sort of a beginning, middle, and end, whereas this just sort of seemed like just sort of random events that sort of could take place at kind of the point. Like when they take place isn't like a big deal exactly. Like it doesn't
Mm.
matter.
It definitely wasn't very gripping at all.
Mm,
There wasn't a whole lot of suspense, but
mm.
it was sort of like calming. And I'm trying to think of other films that I've seen that have the same sort of premise where you just follow one character and it's not really like the typical 3 act structure. But
Mm,
this might actually been the first that I've seen to do this sort of thing.
mm.
And I agree. I think the idea is really great. But in practice, it just, I don't know, maybe we weren't the right audience for it. Like when I saw it in cinema, there were a lot of like older couples,
Oh yeah.
so maybe they enjoyed it more.
Mm,
But yeah, I definitely think it wasn't thrilling, wasn't gripping,
mm.
wasn't very interesting.
Yeah.
But great direction
Mm,
and the aesthetics were really nice. It was
mm.
shot well. The score was really good. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely one of my least favorite.
Yeah. I had this. I think actually no. The ranking. I think it stayed in the spot where I had it rated before. I just dropped the score down. I think that, like Frances McDormand, I think she gives a very good performance in the film.
Yeah,
Um, but I think that's sort of it. Really, I don't like the direction. Like everything that everyone's like praising, like the script and like the directing and editing and everything, the cinematography, I didn't really get. I sort of thought that it was like fine. Like I don't. I'm just gonna say that I don't think this should win Best Picture, and it.
yeah, I agree. I do not
Um,
think it's a best picture film.
but like it kind of does make sense that it would. It seems like it's a very like awards bait, not baity, but like sort of a thing like awards bodies would like, sort of very slow and no plot really, and just sort of ponderous. And um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that, yeah, and it kind of did just sort of leave me thinking, what was the point? Though it didn't really. Um, I don't know. It just didn't feel like it had anything a lot to really say. You know.
Yes, I agree. Like if the point of a film is to like show this one character's journey, what is the actual journey other than like where she physically traveled to throughout the film? I
Hmm.
felt there wasn't a whole lot of character development and she was still the same person
Hmm.
at the end of the film.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of just stuff happens, but it just sort of ends. It doesn't
Yes, exactly.
have a
Stuff
point.
happens and it ends.
Yeah. Um. And yeah, I gave this. I'm just trying to think because there's not really a lot to talk about. Honestly, it's a very like, as I said, it's very like slow and ponderous, and there's no real plot. So I mean, I guess there is kind of a plot, but it's not like, I don't know. The plot just isn't there. I'd say.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think like the only really thing that I like remember and like thought was pretty good was Frances McDormand's performance.
Mm.
And other than that, I sort of think like I sort of think every year around this time there's always a film that everyone hypes up, but like isn't that great to be honest. Like that sort of gets all this awards buzz and hype, but doesn't warrant that. I don't think warrants it. It's just sort of just sort of
Yeah.
more the
Like
uh
the idea of it was
yeah
better than the actual product.
yes kind of like that sort of the you sort of think like it's built up as this like great thing, and you watch it and it's not really. It's just fine.
Yes. So what would you rank that or not rank, like rate it out of?
So I it dropped down to a 7 out of me. A very I would say a generous 7, but because I do think it is sort of it's not bad. It's just there's not enough to get invested in. Really, it's just sort of
Yeah.
this ponderous plot of her just traveling from place to place, which is a good idea, but it doesn't feel that it's executed well enough to be getting all this awards love.
Yeah, I would agree with like a high 7. I just wasn't I feel like I wasn't as attached to the character as I should have been,
Mm,
but it definitely did have great aspects.
mm. So what would you give it? A
Like
7?
a high
A high
7,
7,
yeah.
yeah. All right. We're going through this pretty fast to be honest, but I think there is not a mass amount to talk about. Like I said,
With Nomadland, yeah,
yeah.
definitely not.
Next, this I've got a lot to say about this. Promising Young Woman.
Yes.
There is a lot to talk about.
Good,
Um,
bad?
this is one of the best nominees this year, honestly, in my
Yes.
opinion.
Oh, so glad
Um,
you agree.
I probably should we talk about the plot as well? Like explain what the plot is so people who don't know.
Yeah, I've been seeing it advertised a lot as like a revenge thriller, but it's so not. It's so much more than that,
I th- I think that's sort of dumbing it down to a
Yeah,
point. Uh,
for sure.
I'm just gonna quickly jump back to Nomadland. I guess is it just about a woman who just sort of travels from place to place? Like that just sort of seems like
It's about a nomadic
it's a bit
woman
yeah
trying to find herself in her late 60s or whatever.
yeah
Not
yeah
100% sure to be honest.
yeah. See, there's not a lot to talk about, but this I think we can. There's a lot to say here. So, do we just should we just go through for the rest of these? Should we just explain what the plot is basically, and then just sort of touch on individual elements?
Yeah.
I'll let you explain the plot for this one, and then we can just go back and forth explaining the plots, so you can
Okay,
explain
so
what this one is.
uh, I'd say it's somewhat mocking revenge thrillers
Mm,
in like the traditional sense, but it's also it has like great comedic elements.
mm,
It's very touching. I cried watching this movie. Excellent
mm,
performances, excellent direction. Emerald Fennell, who was the writer and director and producer, this was her directorial debut, which I think is an amazing feat. And she was
mm.
also 7 months pregnant when she directed the
What?
shoot,
Oh,
which is
Jesus,
insane.
that is insane. Really, 7? Wow,
Yeah, it was like a
man.
month-long shoot.
Oh
She was
man.
7 months pregnant.
Well, mad respect, and I think this is a very solid like debut film. Like this
Yes,
is like because
very
she
exciting
yeah like
for
because
like her future.
yeah because it says here on her Wikipedia page she's like she's done like acting and like writing and stuff. Like she's written like scripts and stuff, and she acts, you know.
Mm.
But this is like the first thing she's directed, and I think it was very well directed. In fact, she got a Best Director nomination, which I think was very surprising and very well deserved.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I actually noticed. I saw this film twice in cinema, and the
Really?
second time, yeah, um, she actually makes a cameo. in the
I
film.
figured she must have, because if she's an
Yeah,
actor, she probably would put herself in it at some point. Yeah.
yeah. I didn't even know that she was the director at that point. And then
Mm.
I saw her. She the cameo is like she's in a YouTube video that Carey
Yeah.
Mulligan's character is watching.
Yeah, it
I was
says
like,
here.
wait, I know her. And then I looked up the actress to remember her name. I was like, no way, she like is the creator of this film.
Yeah.
So I thought that was
Yeah.
cool.
It says here her role on her Wikipedia page is video tutorial host.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, because some of these films wasn't able to rewatch all of these for this. What part is that again? I'm trying to remember when it is.
Carey Mulligan is like looking in the mirror doing the tutorial, the video tutorial is like blowjob lips, so it's like a makeup look. And she's
Oh,
getting ready to
right.
go out. And
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's basically dumbing it down and saying it's a revenge plot is like really dumbing it down. There's a lot more nuance to it, but basically, Carey Mulligan, who I've got a lot of things to say about, is a woman whose sister was her sister. I know her sister was raped, but was she killed or did she kill herself?
I'm not sure if it was her sister or her friend, but yeah.
Or was it or maybe it was, I swear it was someone. It was like an important
it was someone
person.
very close to her.
Maybe it was.
Yeah, but she was sexually assaulted, and that assault was filmed on a camera, and it made her drop out of medical school and then supposedly kill herself, even though the word rape is never said in the film. You know,
is it?
Never,
I thought it was implied though. To me, it seemed it was heavily implied.
Yeah, definitely, it's very much implied, but it's never explicitly stated.
Yeah.
Which I think is a fantastic choice. You know, because
did not explicitly state what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've seen like a lot of reviews saying it was insensitive or that it was sending the wrong message by, spoiler alert, by leaving both female characters or protagonists like dead. But I just thought
nice work on the spoiler alert. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a really powerful choice, and it helped it. Like the abruptness was like it really helped it feel more realistic, and like it was really gutting, you know.
I was actually surprised. I didn't think that would happen.
Me either.
I actually was like, okay, this is gonna happen, and I sort of saw how it went, and I liked the sort of subversion, and it ends like, oh, that's terrible, but in the context, it kind of makes sense and it works. Like it's not just like a sad ending for the sake of it. It sort of can work within the context of this story. Yeah, it says it's her best friend who was, by the way. Yeah, it wasn't her sister.
Oh yeah. Okay, and I loved how like, yes, like there wasn't just a happy ending for everyone, and everyone wasn't okay.
Yeah.
But it's still like justice was served. Yeah. I thought that was really amazing, and also like plot like a. Overarching plot like aside, like the small like reveals and stuff like with Bo Burnham's character, and the casting was amazing. The casting choice of Bo Burnham, phenomenal, because I feel like his whole like persona and like casting him, he hasn't done pretty much any on-screen work since
I don't know much about him, but he's like a comedian or something, right?
Yes. So he has like 2 official stand-up like specials. But he also wrote and directed an A24 movie called 8th Grade, which was amazing.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, he's a wonderful guy, really like stand-up great guy, and like casting him in this like position, it really like put me at ease with that character.
Oh, and then,
when a certain reveal was made, I like physically gasped in the cinema, and every single casting choice was just so good.
I'm just looking at the cast right now. So we've got Carey Mulligan, who, can I just say, is fucking amazing.
Yes, definitely.
Was like the opening scene. It's in the trailer, so I don't think it's massive. But the open. So she's out at like a like a bar, and she's acting all drunk, and so a guy takes her to his place, and he's gonna do some things, and there's just a moment where, because she's acting drunk and whatever, and then she just like sort of just like snaps and sort of just like acts normal again. And something about it, just like the charisma that she had, that like she exuded in this as for this performance, was like
Bone
really
chilling.
good.
Yeah, it's great.
Like,
The moment where she makes that switch, like
yeah,
every time she does it,
yeah,
and you can like see the fear in the other actor's eyes. Like, it's
yeah. Like
amazing.
they really sell like this is, you know, a very, like, she's very like imposing, I guess.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I in fact wrote a review of this film that I'm gonna find, but I'm sure we'll talk about this later in comparison. But I think she gave the best definitely the best female performance of the season, and I personally
Yeah.
think she should win Best Actress. But again,
Yeah.
we'll get to that.
Okay, I wouldn't be mad if she won Best Actress, but after my first viewing of the movie, and I wrote my my Letterboxd review, I actually wrote that I thought she could have done more, or I felt like her performance was like outstanding, you know. But I felt like the script didn't allow her to do like as much as she could have, you know. Like, I felt like the whole movie she was balancing on, like, walking along this line, you know, and she never fully like dipped over, you know. Like, she was always just slightly, like, I felt like she was on the brink the whole movie, but she never got to like do like a massively powerful, like, emotional scene. But maybe that was actually for the better.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't think this movie would have worked if it sort of had like a big, like, emotional sort of like
yeah,
scene,
because
like,
the big emotional thing is that character's end,
yeah.
you know.
Because I sort of looked at the cast and who is in it, and there's lots of people who I know and like, but they're not really in it much. Like Alison Brie, for example, she's in it, but
Yeah.
she's not in it for a lot. Like same with Chris
like
Mintz-Plasse.
3 scenes or something.
Yeah. And Alfred
Mick
Molina.
Lovin,
Yeah.
who I forget's real name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think they will do a very good job with the limited screen time that they have. Like, they sort of, there's a lot more to talk about, and sort of, like, they do so much more than is required of them.
Yeah. And I want to like emphasize again, the casting choice is so good. Like, having more like familiar faces, you know, like Alison Brie, and I forget the name of the actress, but the university dean, the college dean. I've seen her in a lot.
Yes.
Having like those familiar faces really helps like put you at ease. Then you find out they've done these terrible things.
Yeah.
Like, really dramatic, really great.
Yeah. I also think this is a film where it seems a bit divisive among people. I think that, to be fair,
really
it seems like it's kind of divisive, not exclusively, but by like a lot of men, it seems, because I think they misinterpret the film as saying all men are like this, and I don't think it is. I think it's making a point that, you know, sort of a comment on society, but not saying all of them are like this, just, you know, it could be, like, you know, I think it's a very important message, I guess, to say.
Yeah. Yeah, like the whole it's not all men thing, but, you know, women have to live like it is all men, in, you know, because it is some men and it does happen. So, yeah.
I just think that one bit that I really liked, it's sort of in the third act, sort of towards the end. There's like a violin version of the Britney Spears song "Toxic."
Toxic.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's
so good.
It's so good. Like, it's not the full song, but it's like this, like the chorus, basically.
Yeah, the hook, like the
Yeah.
dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Yeah, and it's like
Really
the piercing, like, violins note sounds, you know. And I think that it really works. I think the film, like, because it's in the trailer, but it's only like sort of towards the end in the third act.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the best, like the only time they could have used it based on the context of the story and how it, and it led up to that.
Mm.
Um, I'm trying to just think like, because yeah, I think this has one of the best. Just like in general, the screenplay is a very well written screenplay.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, the cinematography, I was
mm,
shocked with like how like visually stunning this film was.
mm.
Like all of the candy colors, like the
Oh,
pastels,
yeah,
were
it's
really
a very
gorgeous.
bright, like colorful film for a very, which I guess is sort of juxtaposition to the sort of dark subject matter.
Yes, definitely. And like with the cinematography, I remember this one shot which was done like from underneath a glass coffee table or something, and I was like
Mm,
looking up at it and I was like, oh, when you're watching a film and like you actually think like, oh wow, what an amazing shot, which is
mm,
quite rare, because usually you're just like following the story, but I thought it
mm,
was noticeably great. And
mm,
yeah, I loved how the pastel colors, like her
mm,
nails were painted and it was
mm,
like a thing throughout, and then you see like when she is, spoiler alert, dead on the bed, you see like
yeah.
her limp hand with like the pastel nails. I thought that was a
Mm,
really nice little
yeah.
like motif.
Yeah. I'm just gonna quickly say, whenever we say spoiler, just like jump ahead 10 seconds, and it should, and you should be good. We don't.
Yeah.
You just say it, and then it's that. Um, a scene. I think there were a few times because this is described as like a dark comedy or a black comedy or whatever. I think
Mm.
some of the humor didn't work for me in the way that it was intended to. Like I kind of feel like this film didn't need the humor. It didn't. Like there are some times where I thought that it just didn't. It wasn't necessary.
I feel the opposite. I feel like
Mm,
if they didn't add in those little like comedic elements, it would have come off more like finger waggy, maybe, or
mm,
maybe that was what they were like scared of. But
mm,
I found like every scene that Bo Burnham in was like so good. But
mm,
the scene where he's eating dinner with their family, or and
mm.
they're like asking him all those questions, I was like laughing throughout that whole scene.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
in the cafe where she like spits in his coffee, that
Mm,
was
mm,
really funny to me. But yeah, I
yeah.
thought the comedic
Mm,
elements really like
mm,
I thought they worked amazingly. I thought they
mm,
brightened it. I thought they were 100%
mm.
necessary.
Right. Mm. Yeah. I felt the opposite. Um. I also there's a scene I want to touch on that I think is maybe the best scene of the film, in my personal opinion. It's the scene between Alison Brie and Carey Mulligan at like the restaurant.
Yes, that's really great.
I think because I've seen Alison Brie in things like Community, and like she's a very comedic actress, so it's
Mm.
interesting to see her in a more serious role, in a more serious type film, or more like a serious performance. And I just think the whole sort of build up and the sort of you keep finding out more, and there's more that's revealed to the audience throughout that scene. I think is very well done.
Yeah, I love how you can see that like snap in Carrie Mulligan's eyes again, like where
Mm,
she like shifts personas from this one that she was putting on to put Alison Brie's character at ease, and
mm,
then she turns to this like her actual
mm,
character and like her true motivations are shown. Like every instance where that happened, I thought the
mm,
performance was so good, so
mm.
stunning.
And to be fair, there was a bit at the very end of the scene where sort of I'm gonna try and keep this as spoiler free as I can. But there's throughout the scene they're drinking a lot. Well, Alison Brie's character, she's drinking a lot, and so the scene ends with Carey Mulligan talking to a guy. And when it first happened, I sort of like, well, that seemed a bit hypocritical for her to do as a
Bit
character,
sinister.
and a
Yeah.
bit sinister. But then there's sort of a reveal that it's not that didn't happen. I was like, okay, that makes sense because I don't think she's like an evil character. Like she's a good character, and
Yeah.
she wouldn't do this to someone else because she knows like how bad it can be, you know. But she
Yeah.
just Um,
Another scene that I thought was really great was when Carey Mulligan's character confronts uh, Ryan or Bo Burnham at his place of work after she
After there's the
finds out
reveal
something about
about,
him after
oh yeah,
a
that's a
reveal.
really good scene. That's a really
Yeah,
good scene.
so good. The
Um,
tension is palpable. It's
mm,
amazing. And I'm not sure if this was like intended or not, but
mm,
I liked how Bo Burnham's character was kind of like slouching or like sitting down, and
mm.
she was standing, so they were like the same height.
Oh yeah,
When he was usually like towering over him, I thought that could
yeah,
have been
yeah,
like a
yeah.
cool like metaphor for power or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah,
that scene was so good. Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah. I think this is one of the, because I had some. I think I had one film above it, and I was like, well, I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed this, and I think
Mm.
like this is just one of the best films of last year rather. And I just think that if it's not going to win Best Picture, but if it did, I would be pleasantly surprised with it if it did win.
Me too, definitely.
Um, so do you want to put a rating on it and then move on?
Okay, I'm out of 10. I'd say 9. Out of
And
5,
whoa,
I would go like 4.5.
all right, that is higher than me actually. But you were more positive because you did talk about you did love the comedy. Actually, what did you think of the ending? No spoilers, but what did you think of like the ending, like the very last
I
scene of it?
Yeah, I thought it was appropriate. I I thought it was impressive that they made it satisfying but
Mm,
still like emotional and
mm,
still like realistic and like
mm,
gutting. I thought it was really well done.
mm. To be fair, I didn't like the ending, and that's probably why I've got it a bit lower. I think the ending works and it sort of makes sense, but it just seemed a bit like they wanted to sort of, I don't know, the way they just sort of felt like they just wanted to give it this, and I don't think it needed it exactly. Like I don't know, I just think it sort of seemed a bit tacked on, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that, but I still think it was great.
Um,
So your
so
rating?
I give it an 8 out of 10, which I think is fair. I think it's, yeah. I just think that the comedy didn't work, and the ending I'm not a big fan of. But other than that, I think it's one of the best nominees of the year.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's just really good. Um, so next, uh, Judas and the Black Messiah. Do you want me to start with this one or?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I'll just go through the plot. So it's basically just about Fred Hampton and the Black Panther Party, which was a group of people who were for the rights of black people in the 60s. It takes place in, right?
I think yeah,
Yeah,
late 60s,
late
early
60s, yeah.
70s.
This is one of the best nominees this year. I think I like all of the best picture nominees, but this is like one of the best,
Let
in
me
my
ask,
opinion.
did you watch this first or the Trial of the Chicago 7 first?
I watched Trial of the Chicago 7 when it came out, like the day
Okay.
after or something. So I saw Trial first, yes.
I
What do you
actually
ask?
was the opposite. So,
Really?
but yeah, which
Okay.
was interesting.
So just sort of, what do you think of this film?
Well, obviously it was amazing.
Mm,
But I feel like maybe my perspective isn't like the best. Like as a film, yes, it was great. It was like very little complaints, but I it's quite low on both of my lists because I don't know. I feel like I maybe didn't connect with it as much as I should have, or
mm,
that. But I still think it was like objectively a good film, and I'm
mm,
still like I just feel like there were other films that I connected with more
mm-hmm.
emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah, I sort of feel that way. I sort of, I think I connect to, like when I watch films, that sort of tackle or about racism in America primarily, I sort of get very emotionally attached in the
Mm.
sort of the way that it's like the fact that this is still like a thing, that this still happens. I think that's more of what it is. It's like that. This is what modern society looks like, and we should have moved on from that. You know, it's like we shouldn't be like
Yeah.
this. And I think that's sort of
Yeah,
why
definitely.
I enjoy this film as much as I do, because I just think it this I just thought like emotionally I connected to it, I guess.
Yeah. The, I was personally, yeah, surprised
Mm.
by this, and also, did you see the short Two Distant Strangers?
No, I have not.
Oh, it's so good. It's, yeah, it's about uh police brutality, or not even brutality necessarily, just like the death of people of color
Mm.
by police. And
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
it's only like 30 minutes. But yeah, it's nominated for the um
Short film.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought, yeah, that was stunning. And I actually I enjoyed that more than Judas and the Black Messiah, but
Oh.
I don't think necessarily, I don't think that makes it better. They were very different, but
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the subject matter very important, and
Mm.
it's really amazing that films like this can be Oscar nominated like this, like 50 years ago. Crazy, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's
Um.
great
I'm
progress.
just gonna make a quick point about just all the nominees. This is a relatively diverse year of nominations for Best Picture.
Yes,
Um,
definitely.
it's sort of like, because if you look at like other years, like I'm sort of last year, I like was not as diverse. So like this is one of the most diverse, just like list of Best Picture nominations they've had. Um.
For sure.
Uh. So yeah, I think this film was. I saw this with my dad actually. Um. So we saw it together, like a couple days after it came out. And yeah, this is one of the best nominees. Daniel Kaluuya was great in it.
Which character did he play?
He was Fred Hampton.
Oh,
He was
right,
like
right, right.
the
Yeah.
I don't know if he's the main
The
character, but he's sort of like,
titular character.
mm, yeah, he's um. But
He
I
was
think he was a
very good,
very good
very good.
performance. And I think this has sort of convinced me that he's a good actor, because I've seen him in other things, and I just wasn't sold. Like Get Out, I'm not sold on, and I wasn't sold on it, and I wasn't sold on him exactly. Like I thought he was good, but I didn't think he was like great, like Oscar worthy. And this has made
Yeah.
me realize that like no, he's a good he's a pretty good actor, and I just thought he was
Yes,
very good.
definitely. Best
Um,
performance though
of his career or of the
of this of the nominees.
for supporting actor. Um,
Yeah.
uh, mm, I'm not sure. I'll think about. We'll get to it because we'll go through some of the major categories. I'll think about that, but he's definitely up there for best performance supporting of the
Yeah,
year.
I would agree.
Um, but I also think Lakeith Stanfield is also very good,
Mm.
and I don't think he was getting as much awards recognition and love that Daniel Kaluuya is getting, and I think he deserves it. I think he gives a very good performance.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, I think that it's not the same because they're kind of two very different performances. Like, um, I don't know. Like Daniel Kaluuya's performance is sort of bigger, and he's doing a lot more with it, whereas like Keith Stanfield's a lot more subtle, and there's not as much to
Definitely,
him.
yeah.
Um, but I think sort of all the performances, good. Dominique Dominique Fishback, I personally think should have been nominated for supporting actress. I thought
Mm,
she was very good. Um, Jesse Plemons, you from I'm Thinking of Ending Things. I thought he gave a good performance. I didn't think he.
yeah.
Um, sorry. I just sort of think that again, it's just all good performances. It's not.
Yeah. Great cast.
Yeah, it's a very good cast. I also think that the directing is very well done. I think
Yeah.
the Shock King should have maybe I don't know. I'm not sure. He definitely, if he had gotten nominated for director, I wouldn't have complained because I think it was very good directing on his behalf.
Yeah. I think if this film came out like any other year, it would have been like much higher on my list. But
Mm.
I just feel like the other nominees were like this was actually like I very much enjoyed every single film that
Mm.
was nominated this year. And I think that, any other year I would have put this movie higher, but the other nominees were just like so good.
Mm.
Very difficult decision.
Mm. Um. Yeah. Why do I feel there's not a lot to talk about with this? I don't know. I think I got nominated for a original screenplay, which I think is very well deserved. It was one of
Definitely, yeah.
a very good screenplay. Um,
Also the costume design was
mm,
and like set design was really
yeah,
great.
I think that's very true. I, 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 I don't know. Which do you think is harder to do in terms of costume and set design? Either recreate things that like already exist and there's stuff to work off of, or costumes and production design to like create from scratch, like design your own things. Like, what do you think is more difficult?
Or definitely like um it's obviously easier when you have something like to work off, or if you're working from like a particular period of time, then you have pretty much everything already set out for you, and it's just a matter of like uh physically making it exist. But
Hmm.
yeah.
Um, I don't know why, because I feel like there's not a lot to talk about like for this film, which is very weird considering I really liked it. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know why that's weird. I guess I'd think that this is a rather important film and relevant.
Mm.
Um, Sort of to make the point of how black people are treated in as a in by the police basically how they
Yeah.
the ways they are treated different. Um, I also
I really
think
liked the score.
the score, yeah.
Very
Well,
jazzy, very cool.
I actually wasn't a massive fan of the score. Like at times, like sort of at the beginning, there's sort of like these and sort of towards like the end, there was like music that I just felt kind of was off and took me out of the story a little. Like I didn't really think it was all that
Mm.
great. Um, and yeah, I didn't really notice the score besides like the parts I didn't like, honestly.
I think I read that uh it was actually composed by the director's uncle, who is a Harlem jazz musician. So I thought that was cool. It's kind of
Ah,
authentic.
yeah,
Yeah.
it does. I also because at a few points in the film, there's like interviews, like it's sort of intercut with like interviews of like the real Bill
Yeah.
O'Neill, and that felt kind of strange. The sort of way that it was, I don't know. It just felt
Laid
a bit
out.
jarring to me, I
Yeah,
guess.
I agree. I think it could have flowed a bit better. Maybe that
Mm, yeah, definitely.
was an editing thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. like, cause there's biopics and films made about real people that existed. Those bits of it has like interviews of like the real people. It just feels kind of strange, honestly, and it doesn't work.
Yeah. I feel like they maybe should have chosen like one or the other, but trying to like mash like these two, it almost felt like two different concepts, like
Mm.
trying to like fit a biopic in with like
Mm.
a feature kind of, it felt a bit forced, but I
Mm.
don't know. Feel
Yeah.
good.
Did you know that this film's title was different originally?
I did not.
Yeah, so it was announced. So principal photography on the film took place in. I'm just reading it off this thing here. So it took place in. They started in 2019 and they finished it in 42 days.
Wow.
And so it was originally titled as Jesus Was My Homeboy.
Oh, wow.
And then they retitled it to Judas and the Black Messiah.
Good decision, I'd say.
I think that yeah, that's a much
Safe
better title.
decision, but
And I think
yeah.
it sort of makes more. It sort of fits the story more of Judas. Like that title works a lot more and is much more
Yeah,
explanatory and sort of describes the film better.
I agree. Yeah, it would have
Um,
been funny though.
it would have it would have been very weird. Yeah, it's a very interesting title, and I don't and it doesn't really work. So
Yeah,
is there anything else really? There's not a lot to talk about. I just think
yeah. I
it's a
don't have a lot
very
to say.
well made film on sort of every level, basically.
Yeah, very solid performances.
Mm,
Very well done.
yeah. So I would give this. I might change it, but at the current time, I've got it down as a 9 out of 10.
Ooh, I would give this like a low eight,
A low
like a
eight.
solid eight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's fair enough. I might change it to be honest, but that's just what I've got it as for now.
Mm.
So the next, we've got Mank.
Mank. I was
Uh,
very disappointed with
yeah,
Mank.
I've got this. This is the lowest ranking for the Best Picture nominees for me. This is at the bottom of the list, which is very disappointing because I'm a big like David Fincher is really good. I was
Yeah.
very interested in seeing this film, and I thought it'd
Yeah, I
be.
had high hopes.
Mm. And this is
I
one of the
love David Fincher
films.
usually.
Yeah, and this is the film I actually changed my rating for because I felt that I was a bit too generous.
Yeah,
Um,
at the moment, I actually have it above Trial of Chicago 7, but I think I will have to
yeah,
push that around.
yeah. So this is basically just about the making and writing of Citizen Kane, more or less.
Yeah.
Um, have you seen Citizen Kane? Because I haven't seen Citizen Kane.
No, I have not. And
Okay,
maybe if you have, this is a better film, but
that is true. Well, because I was listening to a thing of people talking about this and how like they had seen Citizen Kane like recently for something, and how they sort of like they were like, if you haven't seen Citizen Kane, you probably don't get a lot of these things, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I
yeah,
think this film is very much like I don't know what the word I'm looking. It feels like
boring.
I mean, it is kind of boring to be fair. This is weird. This is one of the weaker David Fincher films, in my opinion.
Definitely. I would say possibly like his worst. It did not feel like I was watching a David Fincher film at all.
No, definitely. Really, you think? Have you seen Alien 3?
I have not seen Alien 3.
Okay, well that is his worst film, but this is like not that great. Which is surprising because it's like David Fincher, and it's got like a very good director, and it's got like a really good cast surrounding it, like Gary Oldman, Amanda Seyfried, Charles Dance. Like they've got like really good people involved.
Yeah. I feel like what I enjoyed most about this film was actually the format and the production design.
Oh, the whole
I
black and white and how it had
Yeah,
the yeah.
yeah. I love period pieces and I love old movies.
Mm.
Yeah, I think I actually enjoyed that more than any of the actual subject matter
Mm.
or the script or the characters. Like Gary Oldman's character, yes, it was a great performance, but the actual character was like very unlikable.
Mm. Yeah. Um. So I don't know if you know this, but the screenplay was written by David Fincher's late father, Jack Fincher.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. It was it was written. Um. So his dad wrote it. I don't know when exactly, but it was before he passed, and it was going to be David Fincher's film he made after the game. Have you seen that?
I can't actually remember. I think I might have. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, it was going to be his follow up to that with Kevin Spacey and Jodie Foster
Oh.
set to be like the leads in it, but it never happened or came out because he wanted to film it in black and white, which
I
they
didn't
didn't.
even know that David Fincher's father was like a filmmaker
I don't know if he's a well. I mean, maybe
or a
he.
writer.
Yeah. So it says he was an American screenwriter and journalist
Oh.
who had written for various magazines and periodicals. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
thought it really wasn't. It didn't grab my attention at all.
mm.
I found it to be somewhat of a chore watching it. I had to take a break halfway through. It was not a very
It's very
enjoyable
slow.
experience. Yeah, this was the film that I enjoyed the least, definitely. This
Yeah.
was probably the only one that I wouldn't watch again.
Mm. I honestly probably wouldn't watch it again either, and I'm like a big David Fincher fan. Like, it just is very. I did also have to take a break. It sort of because I started watching it and then I like sort of had to I stopped, and then I just wasn't like invested or like interested enough to try and go back to finish it because I was
Yes,
like
me too.
it just was very slow and not a massive amount happens. Like I think it's got more story than Nomadland does,
Yeah,
but like it's still
not by
not
much though.
not a yeah, it's not really.
But at least there's like there's the whole deadline. Like
Mm. There is
there's an
a plot
actual
and there's like an end point that you know they need to get to.
yes. But how they get there is just like oh
Mm. I would also say that I do think there are like there's some good stuff. Like I think the production design and like the cinematography and the score is all very good.
yeah. I feel like this will get best um best set design or
It's
best like
well, it's production
production
design,
production design.
but it's like
Yeah.
the combination of like the sets that have been built as well as like set decoration and stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, I think Tenet will probably
Mm.
get like set design, but
Mm.
production.
We'll
Well,
get
I need
we'll
to look at the actual categories. I'm
yeah,
not
but
actually one
we'll
hundred
we'll
percent
talk
sure.
about that'll be like at the end. We'll talk about that at the end.
Okay, but yeah,
Um,
like the costumes were
the
all
costumes are
great.
very good. What did you think of the performances? Did you think there anything particularly stand out?
Not really, to be honest. Like but I think that's more so a reflection of the writing and the characters.
Mm.
I feel like if the actors had more to work with, it
Mm.
would have been like more memorable.
Mm.
But like the performances, they were all solid. They did well. Gary Oldman, he always does well.
Mm.
But yeah, nothing really stood out to
Mm.
me.
I think the fact I don't really agree with Gary Oldman as like best actor nominated for this. I don't think he was particularly amazing. Like I think there are a lot of other much better performances this year that should
Yeah,
have been nominated for best actor in his place.
me too.
I think Amanda Seyfried was pretty good in the film.
Yeah, I think she's kind of like underrated. She always does really well.
Mm. Uh, yeah, because I remember before I saw the film, I was like, I was watch, I was, I think because I'd like seen images of the film and I'd seen like what she looks like in it, and then I was watching Mean Girls at a point, and I'm like, I know who that actress is, and I've seen her from somewhere, and it was from this, and I was like,
Yeah.
and I hadn't like I didn't know or didn't connect the dots that she was in this and Mean Girls.
Yeah, that's weird
Uh,
that it was like the other way around for me. I was
mm,
like, oh, that's the girl from Mean Girls.
mm, yeah. Um.
Lily Collins was pretty good.
To be fair, I don't remember much of the cast or the
Mm.
performances. I didn't really think there was anything massively stand out. I think the one scene that like I really really liked was the scene of Gary Oldman. It's like the dinner party scene, and he's like going on this sort of. You know,
Yes.
I think that's a very good scene, and that's like well, what's on the like the poster is just like that scene basically.
Yeah. Definitely best scene of the movie, I would say, by like a long shot. That
Mm,
scene had like the best dialogue, it had the best flow.
yeah.
That scene was done really well.
Um, and I did yeah. I don't know if I get the idea kind of it being in black and white, but I kind of think it's a bit too
Pretentious?
yeah like artsy. Like it's trying to be sort of
Yeah.
you know
I think it could have been done like
mm,
the same if it was in color. I don't think it really maybe I don't think it added a whole lot, but
mm,
I enjoyed it. You know, I rarely watch
mm,
black and white films anymore, so it was kind of refreshing, I
mm.
guess.
Yeah. This is also leading the Oscar nominations with 10, and this is the most Oscar nominations of any film this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's very surprising.
What do you think would be leading in number of nominations?
I don't know, Meanery?
Mm. So do you want to put a rating on this and then move on to the next one?
I'm gonna get 7 out of 10.
Yeah, same here. It's a 7 out of 10 for me too. So next, there's gonna be some disagreement here. I can tell. Minari.
Yes. Oh, I'm scared I'm gonna pronounce the name wrong. I'm actually not sure. I've
I
been saying
I
Meanery.
I've heard
Minari.
both, but I've heard Minari a lot. Them say Minari a lot. I've heard people say Minari a lot more.
Okay,
It
I'll
could
say Minari then.
okay. So
So good. I
you
loved it.
you've
Best
been
film of the year.
you've been putting
Or
this as
last
your
year.
favorite of the nominees,
Yes.
and I severely disagree with you.
Why? It's so good.
It's no okay. So it's like, do you want to since this is your favorite? Do you want to explain what the plot is?
Okay, so Korean family immigrates to America, and the father buys a plot of land that he hopes to farm. And with the family of four, which is like a daughter, a son, mother, and father, their grandmother moves in, and it's about the family's struggle to thrive uh, economically and like within the relationships of like each other. Really touching movie, very very grounded performances, very earthy movie, very fantastic film. I'd say it has comedic elements, but it's like so dramatic and touching, and there's a lot of suspense and tension. It's thrilling. It made me cry. It's so good.
It's fine. Um, I genuinely, this is the one I'm most disappointed in. I was genuinely like, because I heard like the love for it and how great it was, and then I watched it and I was like, man, this isn't really all that great. Like it's not bad. It's just I was expecting so much more from this than I was given.
More so than Mank.
The difference is I'd sort of heard that Mank was like a bit iffy with people, but like every like thing I'd heard was that Minari is great and that it's a really great film, and I think that's the difference. Is that I had heard Mank was kind of like a bit off, like some people liked it and some people didn't, but this everybody had just like sung its praises, and I don't really understand why, to be honest.
What didn't work for you?
I felt I don't
Were you
think
not like connected with the character?
I didn't really think the only performance that I really enjoyed was Alan Kim. I thought he gave a really really good performance. And other than that,
Yes,
I was
me too.
like, that's it really. Like I didn't think anyone else was particularly great. Like Stephen Yeun was perfectly fine. Like Yo
I
Young
think he did
Jun,
really well. Stephen
Yoon.
Yeun is probably one of like my favorite actors. That's like current. You know, he's great. He's doing really great work. The wife whose name I can't remember the actress, she was so good. Their relationship throughout was done so well. I feel like the whole family cast, it like if someone told me that they were actually related and they were a real family, I'd believe them. Like that's how good the performance was. Like I felt like all of their connections really showed like so good.
Eh, I don't really get that. I didn't think Yo Jung Yoon, I thought was like, I think she got better as the film went along, but I didn't really think that like I don't. She's probably gonna win for supporting actress, and I don't think she should. I just sort of yeah, like it was a
I
good
think it's
performance,
deserved.
but it was like nothing. It wasn't like what I expected it to be. Like I think Alan Kim deserved a lot more awards love for supporting actor through the season. I thought he
Mm.
gave was very good in the film.
Yeah,
Did you see his acceptance speech he gave at the Critics' Choice Awards when he?
I did not.
Oh, it is just the best. He is because he basically so at the Critics' Choice there's like an award for like best young actor and everything, and so he was nominated. Um, and so
I'll
he
have to watch
won.
that.
Yeah, and he's just like he starts like thanking you. He's like thanking like the cast and the critics and everything, and then he starts saying this. And as he's saying this, he just starts crying because he's just like so emotionally like just he's happy, and then he just says like
Yeah.
oh my goodness I'm crying, and it's like just like really great to see this sort of young actor get this recognition. And he sort of
Yeah.
ends his speech sort of talking, saying that he hopes that he'll, do more movies and that this is, he hopes this isn't a dream because it's, you know, life is just great, And I think he deserved more from this
Oh,
season.
yeah, I agree.
Why else did you like this film? Because I think, I guess, sort of technical aspects. I think the score is a very nice score. I think that
I
like
loved the cinematography, how it was just like mm, it's a bit choppy, but what do you?
mm, uh, I didn't really I don't know on the tech I just sort of didn't
You're like
think.
cutting out a little bit.
Yeah,
Hello.
sorry. Can you hello? Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, it just cut out for a
Oh,
second.
okay. Well, you cut out for me,
What
so
were you saying?
I was just saying that on the technical side, it's all like serviceable, but it's nothing like great.
I disagree. I thought everything was stunning. I thought the score really highlighted like the intimacy of the film. I thought that was really beautiful. And like the cinematography, yes, it was like subtle, but it really helps highlight the characters and all of the soft colors. Like it made the whole film feel like kind of nostalgic. You know, it had
Mm,
like just a great feeling, great vibe. The whole film, really touching, really well done.
right. I don't know. It just didn't connect to me on an emotional level. I guess it just sort of felt that it just I don't know. Something about it just didn't connect in the way I feel like it should have, and that it was intending to.
Mm. Yeah. The relationship between the grandmother and the grandson.
Mm.
You're telling me
I
you didn't connect with that? That's so beautiful.
I think it kind of it got better as it went along. To be fair, I do think they. that was like a consistent through line and was actually not too, was pretty decent overall. Like by the end, I was like actually really invested in that relationship. But like,
Yeah.
um,
What about like the humor? Like you telling me you didn't laugh at all watching this?
no, not really. I seem to films that are meant to be funny or comedies I don't find funny apparently. Like I just don't. It just doesn't. I don't know. It just doesn't. I just couldn't connect, and I don't know why. And I because when I watched this, because I think this is the last one I watched for this. I don't know. I just was watching this kind of like, huh, this is weird. This isn't like it. You know, I feel like I should be connecting to this more. And I was like, oh, it's just getting going. But like the halfway point, I'm like, man, I'm really not interested in how this story is gonna progress.
Mm.
Honestly.
I was the opposite. I was like really invested in the family. And okay, this is like a tiny spoiler, but uh, there's a scene where Alan Kim's character, the son, pees
Yes.
and gives to his grandmother as
I thought
Mountain
that
Dew.
felt unnecessary to me. I was like, come on.
I thought it was so good,
Uh,
so funny. Like the lighthearted humor, um, like how it could bounce from that to like gut wrenching emotion
uh,
was like oh, so good. It like was really smooth, you know, seamless. It was great. You telling me that wasn't funny to you?
no, I was just disgusted.
I
I'm like,
mean, fair.
I mean, I when I was younger, there were probably people I didn't like, and I never thought I'll give them a glass of piss. Like, I don't know. I
Piss
just,
in a drink.
yeah. I was just like, I don't know. I just didn't. I don't know. It just
I
didn't.
thought
Well,
it was very funny. Maybe I'm just a child.
I possibly yeah. Um,
Possibly.
what did you think of the ending? Uh, we might get into spoilers, but just the ending, sort of general overall thoughts on the ending. Because I personally just didn't care, and I just wasn't invested in it, and it just sort of the ending happened, and I was like, nah, you know,
Wow, I don't know how we had such different experiences. I was really invested throughout the whole thing, and in the end, I was like crying all throughout the credits. I thought it was really touching. I thought it was like it was satisfying. It was emotional. It was like I wouldn't say it's like the ending wasn't significant. Like it wasn't like standout, but I think it suited the film,
right,
and it was probably the only ending that it could have had.
right, nah. I just think because there's a bit that happens to Yo Jung Yoon's character, and I kind of feel that they there's a decision the family makes with that character after there's sort of a big. It's meant to be like an emotional point of the film. Um, and I just kind of like, well, that it kind of makes sense that, and like the characters don't really, they don't think. I feel like they should have thought, well, maybe this might happen. You know, we should like probably not leave this cat her alone if you know of what happened. You know.
Yeah,
But I just don't. I just don't really
didn't really
care.
connect with it.
Yeah, I just didn't. I just wasn't care to be honest. Um,
Fair.
is there? I'm sure the thing. Uh, what else do you want to talk? Because this is your favorite, so I feel like there's probably you've got a lot you want to say about this film.
Yeah, don't know. It felt like uh, it just felt like it was just like a great experience to sit in the cinema and watch this film. It was so emotive. It was so touching. I thought it was really impressive the kids because it's quite rare that you see children, like this talented. Um, their performances were really incredible, and yeah, I just want to emphasize how real the family felt to me. They, it was like very realistic. I felt very nostalgic. The whole thing. Yeah, I just loved it.
Yeah, I just yeah. To be fair, I will say this: it is better than Nomadland and Mank, so at least you can take solace
Yes,
in that. That
definitely,
I
without a doubt.
because at least it does have like a sort of consistent through line and story, and it also to be fair, it is not boring. I'm just not invested in it. So I'm gonna put my score on it. This one is also dropped down. I've put it as a 7.
Oh, it's a strong 9 for me.
All right then. So yeah. So what have you put as your it's your favorite then? It's your favorite of the nominees so far.
Yes,
I'm just gonna look at the ones we have covered just to see where I put what's put as. I've Judas and the Black Messiah as my
as your number one.
at the moment. Still got three more films.
Interesting.
Um, then next, Sound of Metal.
Okay. I have a lot of thoughts. Well, not really, actually. I
Okay.
very much enjoyed this film. It was
Mm,
not what I was expecting at
mm.
all. I went into it like pretty blind, and I was like pleasantly
So you had no idea what it
surprised.
was about.
No, not at all. I
Mm.
thought it was like, is this some engineer or something? But
um, I knew what
yeah,
the plot
it was
was
great.
beforehand. I sort of heard that it was about like a musician who loses his hearing and sort of has to acclimate to that. And this is my favorite of this year's Best Picture nominees. I think it is the best made on every sort of level, from performance to editing to sound design to sort of everything. The film works on every level for me.
Yeah, I would not be mad if this won
Mm,
Best Picture, but that being said, I don't think it will. But
mm.
Riz Ahmed, who played Ruben, the protagonist,
Yeah,
I would love for him to get
I
Best Performance.
personally think he should win for Best Actor. He's not going to,
Yeah,
but I think, in my personal opinion, he gave the best performance of the year, just like of anybody this year.
yeah, I think I might have to agree.
And I just think that there's a lot about the character because there's in the film there's sign language that is used, and he actually learnt like how to do sign language, and he also learnt how to play the drums as well for the purpose of this film, which is like really, you know,
Mm,
and he spent like a lot of
very
time
impressive.
around. Yeah, he spent a lot of time around like actually deaf people to sort of experience it and see what it was actually
Mm,
like. Um,
yeah, I would be very interested to hear more about like the research that went into the creation of this film because
mm,
it felt so like personal, very touching, very realistic look.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so I think, to be fair, all of the performances in the film are very good.
Yeah.
I think Paul Racy. It's between him and Daniel Kaluuya for me on who should win supporting actor.
Mm.
I was think Olivia Cook. She was the main woman in it, right?
Yeah, she was the love interest.
Yeah, I thought she was very good as well.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and I,
read an interesting review about it
mm,
from someone who had the implants that the protagonist gets,
oh
and
yeah,
how the film gives the, I'm not sure about the actual name, like the hearing implants. The film gives them like a bad rap. Like I think the film has a very negative stance towards them, but
mm,
like yeah, I can't imagine how someone who has them would feel like seeing this movie.
Mm.
which I thought that was quite interesting
Mm.
because the ending, spoiler alert,
Mm.
the ending ends with him taking them off and like
Mm.
accepting himself more.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I thought that was a good ending for the film, and it was like a good sign of growth. But
Mm-hmm.
also, yeah, I can't imagine how an audience member who has those implants would feel.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's quite demeaning almost to
Mm.
someone with that issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's interesting.
Uh, um, I like that sort of the film. It sort of like there's lots of scenes of just sort of pure of just like no dialogue, and it's like a lot of silence, or with like maybe some like
Mm.
just like score, maybe just some like footsteps or something. But it's a rather quiet film with not a lot to, there's like not a lot of
I think that was definitely part of it and definitely like intended. And I thought the scenes where the audience experienced the same audio as the protagonist, I
mm,
thought that was really stunning and very like I had no idea, that was what it was like, and I think it's groundbreaking in that way that that's never been showcased to my knowledge in film before.
yeah. Um, I think this has the best sound design of any film this year, from the musical instruments that are played to the sort of like parts where he sort of is losing his hearing, and it sort of goes a bit like
Yeah.
it's like I think that's really well done, and sort of all of
Yeah.
um yeah, I think that it's a film that I didn't think would get nominated for a lot of awards. I thought it was gonna be like a big like critic, sort of fan favorite, but that wouldn't get the love that it should have deserved. I feel like every year there's sort of
Yeah.
like indie favorites, I guess. Things like Uncut
Mm.
Gems or The Lighthouse, for example, like recently, or things like First Reformed, or films like that deserve a lot of awards love but don't get it, and so it's just sort of you know like indie favorites, and I thought this would be another one of those
Yeah.
kinds of films.
I'm glad that it wasn't, like
Mm.
I was absolutely floored when Adam Sandler didn't get anything, any like official um recognition for Uncut Gems. That was a
Mm.
tragedy. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad that this film is more officially recognized. Definitely deserving of it.
Mm. Yeah. um I just think this is the best film of these nominees, and
So this is your number one?
this is number one. Yes, I
Wow.
think on every. I also think the directing is very well done, because this is again, there's not a massive amount of there's not there's a decent portion of dialogue, but there's a lot of just silence or like sign language, so you've got to try and direct that, and that can be very
Yeah.
difficult, But I think the director pulls it off, and I think this was the director's directorial debut. I think
Oh wow, that's extremely impressive.
so. And there's one more that will also, the father, which is also that director's directorial debut. So like this year, there's a lot of
Oh,
directorial
three.
debuts as well, which is a
Yeah.
like because of all the films that got delayed and everything, this is I'm just a very good batch of nominees. Like it's a pretty like one of the best. Like it's a pretty good year. There's no true like really awful films nominated that like don't deserve to be there. It's like a pretty good list.
Mm.
I would say anyway. Um,
Yeah, nothing egregious.
yeah. So I also think the ending, we sort of touched on it a little bit earlier. The ending is it's a bittersweet ending, to put it, simply.
It is,
And
yeah.
I think that's the way this kind of, because I don't think every film needs to have a happy ending. I think there's it can have, there can be bittersweet endings, or they can just be just depressing sort of endings when it's not happy endings. But this is one of those bittersweet
Mm.
endings.
Yeah, I was
Um,
definitely satisfied for
yeah,
the end.
yeah, and
A
it sort of
scene that I
made sense with sort of the character progression
yeah,
as well.
yeah. There was one scene that really stood out. It was when he was working or not working, he was just like spending time with the kids in the school, and there was like a performance for the
Oh
class,
yeah, that.
and he took one of the students who was like messing around outside.
Oh, where they're on like the slide and they're like sort of making.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a. I think all the scenes of Riz Ahmed's character with the kids are very well done, and they're very good, like
Yeah.
young kid actors, you know, which is
Yeah, they
impressive.
were all amazing.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, that one scene on the slide where Ahmed's character is drumming and the kid feels the vibrations on like the metal slide,
Yeah,
which sound of metal, but
yeah,
yeah, that was so so I can't even think of the word. Very very touching, very emotional
mm.
moment. Very just like, makes you put your hand on your chest and go like, you know.
Yeah,
It was good to see.
yeah,
Very wholesome moment.
yeah. Um. So, do you want to put a rating on this one?
I can't. Yeah, I struggle rating this film because if I was to rate it on its own, I would have no issue giving it like a extremely high ranking, like a like 9 out of 10. But
Mhm.
I think compared to the other Oscar noms, I might have to give it an 8,
An
a high
eight.
8 though.
A high eight.
Yeah,
Okay. Um. Okay, so that's it. So 8 out of 10 then from you.
yeah.
So like I said, this is my favorite of these nominees, and I'm giving it a 10 out of 10.
Wow.
It legitimately is the best film of last year, and I was
Is that
also
the first time there's been a 10 out of 10 on the podcast?
no, I think we've done Rear Window, and I think I gave that a 10.
Oh yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
any. I think that's the only other one we've given though so far of what's been released.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I thought it's the most emotionally gripping story for me anyway. Um,
Yeah,
and I just think it deserves every award it wins because it's just really great.
yeah. I definitely would not be mad if
Mm,
that won literally every award. But
yeah.
yeah, great film.
So we've got two nominees left. So um, I actually want to bring up something about the Oscars. Well, not. It's kind of about the Oscars, but it's not about the films. So do you know who Bill Maher is?
Oh, I have heard the name, but
Okay.
remind me.
So he's like a late night talk show host, but like he's not funny,
Right,
and he's just a
that's
dick.
rare.
He's like he's just like he's like he's meant to be funny, but like he's not, and he's just
Mm.
so he did a thing recently talking about the like Oscar films, and he basically made a point that like he didn't like this year's batch of nominees, which I guarantee he hasn't seen, and just was like, why are they all depressing, like sad films? And it's just like that's what they always are. The Oscars are always sad.
Yeah,
Like look at the part, just look at every year of like nominees. That like look at last year's nominees. Like it's but also these films are not like these are not sad depressing films. Like there is like hopefulness. Like Minari
yeah, they're quite
is
uplifting.
is a very uplifting film. You know, like Promising Young Woman is like meant to be a comedy. You know,
Mm.
all these things, and he just sort of and he sort of talks about how films were like I. This is sort of an overarching point of the idea that films like they don't make good films anymore, which I think is completely wrong because I think like because when you sort of look at I don't know if this will stay in or not, but but the sort of idea that films there aren't great films made anymore, I think is very wrong because it's
Definitely very wrong.
like the like because I saw this thing of people talking about like oh man we were still getting films like, I don't know, just like things like, I'm trying to remember. It's like weird like 80s comedies like Stripes or like things like that. Or and I'm just
Mm,
like, but also, like, do those movies hold up like exceptionally well? Like, I don't know if they do.
yeah, I feel like maybe the view from a like 65-year-old talk show host isn't the most prevalent in the film industry. Maybe
Yeah.
we should not be listening to him.
No, I'm
Maybe
not.
he should not have a platform for
Yeah.
that subject matter.
And so he talks about how, like, there's a quote here where he's like talks about how Hollywood used to make films for adults that were entertaining and not like just depressing, but then he shows images of films like 12 Years a Slave and like Schindler's List, which are 10 times more depressing than any of the Best Picture nominees this year. Like, those are
Yeah,
like really sad, depressing films, and it's just like,
very hypocritical.
it's just like, yeah. And I think the idea that, you know, I just sort of think this idea that, like, because the whole point of the Oscars is to showcase like the best films made, so they're not going to nominate for like the best films of the year. So it's not going to nominate like big blockbusters, because while those are enjoyable and I do like a decent portion of those, they're not the best films made. There's like better films made from, like, from the year,
Yeah, 100%.
and I just think that's just sort of, yeah.
Ridiculous claim.
Yeah, I just think that, and sort of that idea in general of like films, like, I don't know, it just annoys me, the idea, and people who think that like movies aren't great anymore, like they don't, which is wrong. They're like there are great films made all the time. It's just
Yeah.
they don't get the recognition as much as they used to anymore, because sort of the view on cinema has changed somewhat.
Mm. Especially with like, and it's definitely still changing. With
Mm.
all of the streaming services. Like
Yeah, and that's another thing, like streaming services. There's like, you know, and I
like the
think,
last 2 years, I think, are the first to have Oscar nominations from like only for films that were only released on streaming services, which is crazy. But I guess that's like going to be the new normal.
yeah, which I don't think there's a problem with. Like, films are films.
Yeah,
I think the
exactly.
way they are released is irrelevant.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think the idea that something like can't get better in general is like so crazy. Like, we're evolving. It's not like because The Great Gatsby is good, a book is never going to be written that's better. Like, it's such like a backwards,
mm,
like old person idea.
yeah, but like he is a moronic old white man.
Mm.
So and I think, this actually sort of brings to a quick point before we continue on. The I don't know if you heard that the Oscars are gonna adding new rules, some more inclusivity. Like, the films have to be like more inclusive to be nominated for like Best Picture.
Oh, I didn't know that. If they have to pass the Bechdel test, though, I'm not sure there's gonna be like no Oscars at all. But
No, so it isn't in place yet, but it's gonna be in place in like the next couple years. I don't
that's
think
good, I guess.
it's
It
not.
depends on the actual rules, but
Yeah, it's not like a Bechdel test, which by the way, I think the Bechdel test is stupid. If I'm being 100% honest, I think
mm,
because I think that
I think it's interesting.
it's an interesting way to look at things, but it doesn't actually, just
Reflect
because,
what a
yeah,
film is.
like
Yeah,
Twilight
I agree.
passes, but you wouldn't say Twilight is like a good representation of women. I mean, I would say
Yeah,
it is. Like, it's a very bad way to represent women,
yeah.
in my opinion, anyway. Um,
But like The Father,
mm,
right? That wouldn't pass the Bechdel test, but
no,
it was a phenomenal film.
which actually that was the next film on the list, actually.
Perfect
Um,
segue.
so yeah, that was actually perfect. So The Father, uh, pretty good film.
really great film.
Yeah.
I was not expecting what it was at all.
So did you know what it was about prior to seeing it?
I didn't know the details. I knew
Mm.
it was about an elderly man and his daughter, but that was about it.
So you didn't know that he had dementia and that it was sort of
No.
oh, okay. I well, because this film came out like at like Sundance or something like last year in January, like 2020 or something.
Mm.
So like some people had seen it, well over a year ago, and so just when it came out, the reviews, like the reviews that came out, and I was like, this sounds good. I can't wait to see this. And it's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I actually have like zero criticism for this film. I just thought it
Really.
was like, emotionally flooring. It was shot really well. The performances were amazing.
Mm,
Um, yeah, no criticism,
mm.
only praise.
Yeah. I've got slight criticism, but we'll get to that in a minute. So yeah, I think yeah, yeah. Anthony Hopkins gives his best performance I've seen from him in this.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think because a lot of the film works because of him. Like I would
Yeah,
think that if he doesn't work, the rest of the film doesn't work,
yeah,
or at least not
definitely.
as well. It's sort of he needs to be great, and then the rest of the film, works just as well
Mm.
because of him.
Yeah, I thought the casting choices were really great,
Mm.
and I liked how so it's not really a spoiler, but the he gets like a nurse, right,
Mm-hmm.
which is later revealed to be a nurse in a
Mm-hmm.
nursing home.
Yeah.
But he sees this nurse as his daughter for a time, and
Yes.
the
Yes.
actress that plays his daughter and the actress that plays the nurse actually look quite similar. I thought that was
Mm.
a really great
Yeah, they
choice.
don't look massively so. They look rather somewhat similar. Yeah, I will give
Yeah,
you
they have
that.
some of the same features, like
Mm.
because it happened quite early on where he like mistakes the nurse for his daughter. I was like,
Mm.
wait, did that actress just change?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah,
it made
yeah,
me
yeah.
actually think about it. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. I like that this film was from Anthony Hopkins' perspective, and sort of you see
Mm,
what he sees, because a lot of these kinds of films sort of take place from the people around him and their perspective,
yeah.
and I think that is a lot. And I think filming it from his point of view is a lot more interesting because you're sort of disorientated along with him, which at
Yeah.
times didn't work for me. I felt the disorientation was a bit too confusing. Like most of the
Mm,
time, it really, really worked. Like it was really, really good. But um, there were a handful of times where I was just a little bit confused and not in like a good way. Like I actually, but like that's sort of my primary. That's like my only criticism with the film is that I was a bit confused at points and not in like a good way.
yeah. I can see how that could be a problem, but I personally didn't have that. I thought all of the scenes that were like showing his struggle, or like when he opened the doors in his flat, like his closet doors, and it
Mm,
opened to like a hospital hallway. I thought
mm-hmm,
that was done so well, and that was probably like the the emotional climax of the film started like there. But it
mm,
was really great,
mm. Yeah.
just like technically done as well. Like that
Mm-hmm.
was really
It's
cool,
very technical. I think the editing
really
is
interesting.
surprisingly good. Like I think the editing that the film
Yeah.
does is very. It's very good editing. It's sort of like I didn't expect the editing to be as good as it was. Um, but
Yeah, me either.
yeah.
But I think the what really stood out were the performances
Mm. Olivia Colman
because it
giving
was really all about
yeah.
the characters and
If the performances
the
don't
connection.
work, then the rest of the film doesn't work. Like, because this is a film sort of based solely on the performances. Like, everything else is sort of not, you know, like the performances,
Yeah, everything's
need to work, or the film doesn't work really. And I think the performances,
yeah.
I think Olivia Colman gives a really good performance in it. Probably her career best, or the best I've seen her do. I have not seen The
She's
Favourite,
fantastic.
which I've heard is very good, and she did win the Oscar for that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's really great in that.
but this is a very good performance, and I would have no problem with her winning for supporting actress. Sort of a bit like Anthony. If Anthony Hopkins won, I wouldn't be upset. I wouldn't be upset if
Mm.
Anthony Hopkins won, but I prefer Riz Ahmed. But I think of the supporting performances this year, I think Olivia Colman has given the best of those. I don't think there's another supporting performance from this year that I thought was better than
Yeah,
hers.
I agree. I find she really drops into characters and
Mm.
really she's always like stunning. Like her character in Phoebe Waller-Bridge's series Fleabag,
Yes. Oh, she's so great in that. Yeah, she's so
and
good.
like every time I've seen her,
Mm.
yeah,
She's
every
one of
time I've seen her in a character, it feels like she's a different person.
mm, she's one of those like few people who can do comedic performances and serious performances. Because I've also seen her in things
Yeah.
like Broadchurch, which is sort of like a cop drama, and she's very good in that. And I've
Mm.
also seen her in like Hot Fuzz, which is like a pure comedic performance.
Yeah.
And it's just really good, and she's really good. Um, it's I think this is also because I think some films, just sort of in general, can just go forever. Like they go too
Mm.
long and unnecessarily slow. But I feel this film was like 90 minutes, and I
It really
think
didn't feel like it.
it went by fast. But I don't. I think if it had been any longer, it would have felt a bit just slow.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I thought the pacing was really great.
yeah, it moved fast and the pacing was great. Um,
Yeah.
this is based off of. I don't. Did you know this is based off of a play?
I did not know that.
Yes, this is based off a play written by the director Florian Zeller. So the film was written by Christopher Hampton and Florian Zeller, and it's based off of Zeller's play.
Oh wow.
Um,
That would be really interesting to see live.
mm, yeah, I think like I don't know how well this. I think this could work better. This might work better as a film because if you're a bit
Mm.
like on like stage or plays, you have to be a little bigger. You sort of have to give
Yeah.
bigger performances, and I do not think that this film. I don't think this film should have been a big. It's a lot of subtle performances from Hopkins, Cop, everyone. To be fair,
Yeah, very personal, very
mm,
yeah,
yeah.
subtle.
Um, yeah, I think this is just a very good film and one of the best nominees this year.
Yes.
So I give this a 9 out of 10.
I would also give this a 9.
I think that's the first time we've agreed on it. No, did we give? Was it? Did we give? I know we gave Mank or Nomadland actually earlier the same, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
think we
think
gave. I gave Mank and Nomadland both 7.
yeah, I think we yeah. No,
Yeah.
I'll give Meg a 6 and Nomadland a low 7.
Mm. So now, final Best Picture nominee, Trial of the Chicago 7. I think it's good.
Me too.
Okay. I originally had this like sort of nearer the top, And then I sort of was thinking, well, no, I actually like Promising Young Woman more, so I dropped it down below. But that also meant I had to change its score. So, yeah. I think this is... What do you think of Aaron Sorkin? Just sort of in general, like a writer and filmmaker.
I'm not sure how much of his stuff I've actually seen.
Have you seen The Social Network?
I haven't, which I've been meaning to see for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta do that at some point. The Social Network's so good.
Yeah, for sure. Did he do the? I think I saw the Steve Jobs movie.
I think he did. I think he wrote that. I'm just gonna quickly check. Actually, I'm pretty sure he did. He also did The West Wing, which I don't know if you see. I haven't seen, but I didn't know he was like a head writer.
I have not.
So he's directed A Few Good Men. No, not directed. Written A Few Good Men. Moneyball.
I have not seen that.
Molly's Game.
I have no recollection of that even being filmed. Molly's Game.
Okay, well that's fine. And he's got a film coming out this year. Well, it's slated to come out this year, but I don't know if it is called Being the Ricardos.
Sounds intriguing.
It says that the premises takes place over the course of a week during production of I Love Lucy, which sees Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz encounter a crisis that could jeopardize their careers and marriage. It's got a pretty good cast. Nicole Kidman, Javier Bardem, J.K. Simmons. Like,
nice.
That's a pretty good cast.
Yeah.
So Trial of Chicago 7 is based off the Chicago 7, which I think this is a good sort of style, like a good film. That after I watched the film, I did research and wanted to learn more about the actual event itself, like what led up to it, the aftermath and everything. And I just thought it was very interesting to see.
Yeah, going into this film, I was not excited because I'm not a huge fan of like courtroom set movies. Yeah. But this was so compelling, and I was never bored. You know, very. It did a great job of holding my attention for sure throughout the film.
I sort of feel I sort of feel similar to that. I think. Sorry.
Sasha's character was great.
Yeah, Sacha Baron Cohen. Gives a really good performance. I think all the performances are pretty good. I don't know if there's. I think Sacha Baron Cohen probably gives the best performance, but everything else is just sort of like fine. You know, there's nothing amazingly standout.
The judge.
Oh,
the judge was
Frank
really
Langella, I thought he was very good. A very
he really
unlikable character.
Yeah, he really made me hate him. You know.
Yeah, which is the point. You know, I think that's the whole of his character, and he's very good at it, and he gives a really good performance as the judge.
This film was great at really making me feel frustrated and hate society.
Yeah. I think that. Yeah, I think the film also is like. I don't know what I'm really. It's just. I think the editing. Everyone talks a little about the editing and how great the editing is, and I think it moves along at a very fast pace. And
which was definitely necessary.
Yeah, because I feel like this is I feel like it might be a bit too long though. I
didn't feel that way. I thought it fit. It fit the story well within the confines.
But I just think this is a pretty solid film. I think the ending feels a bit forced. Like,
But it was based off true events, so
yeah, but I don't think that the full ending, at the end, minus spoilers, there's sort of like there's like a song that is playing and sort of a very hopeful ending, and I don't think that's accurate to what happened. I could be wrong, but
yeah, I
it
was like
felt a
reading.
bit
It had like
shoehorned in
those
there.
it had like what happened to
Yeah,
the real people that it
but
was
that
based off.
happens in like a lot
Like
of these kinds of films, which I don't have a problem with.
yeah, yeah, like reading that with the hopeful music, and I was like, this guy killed himself. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a very weird sort of it's a sort of triumphant, hopeful music, and
Yeah,
this guy committed suicide. Ugh.
strange tone.
Mm. I do think that it is very engaging, and I think the scenes where I think the best parts are just the scenes of them in the courtroom, just sort of talking about things and like giving their
Yeah,
case and everything. I
yeah.
think also the scene of I forgot the character's name, but Yahya Abdul Mateen, who is the he's like the black guy who's sort of in there along with the rest with the Chicago
Oh,
Seven.
Bobby Seale.
Yeah, Bobby Seale. I think
Mm.
his like a lot of there's like a lot of awards buzz for his performance, which I didn't really get, but I do think he does a good job with what he has, and also the
Mm.
scene where the how do I describe it? Like the sort of where he's sort of like restrained forcefully,
Oh
illegally
yeah,
rather.
where he's gagged
Yeah,
in the courtroom.
yeah, is very like dark
Very powerful.
and a
Very
very like
dark. Yeah,
yeah, very important. Not important, but like it's like a big deal.
yeah. And even the prosecution is like, okay, that's enough.
Yeah, they and you know that, and you sort of you look at it like they're all sort of like this. We don't need to do this, and like only the judge is the one who's doing this. Like he's like the villain of the
Yeah,
piece. Everyone else
yeah.
is like there's just people who are they're just doing their
Caught
job.
up in it.
Rather
Mm,
they don't condone this.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I liked how at the end, when it was showing like the statistics and where are they now kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
showed that like 75% of like the judges at the time found that judge like unfit
Mm-hmm.
to be a justice of the peace, which I thought was quite good. I
Yeah.
was happy to read that.
Yeah. Um. I think a common complaint that I sort of saw more here than in the Social Network because of is Aaron Sorkin's way he writes dialogue and writes characters. Because in the Social Network,
Mm.
it kind of fits more because of he's writing about like these computer nerds and sort of the things they say and the way they talk seems sort of accurate. They sort of say just the dialogue between the characters sort of fits more than it does here. They just sort of talk in a way that doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I understand that, but I think Sacha Baron Cohen's characters like one-liners and where
Mm.
he like mocks the judge. I thought that uh,
Mm.
works really well to like
Yeah.
lighten the mood and keep it upbeat and fast-paced. I thought he was
Yeah.
like really great, and his character was written very well.
Yeah. So there's not lot left. I think we've sort of covered everything. I think it is. Is there anything else
Yeah.
you want to talk about?
Um, I think that's it. I just
Mm.
want to hear your like final ranking like
Yeah.
list.
So I'm gonna put a number on this, and then we can. So yeah, let's just put a number on this, and I'll give my full ranking of the films.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Oh yeah, I'll let you go first.
I'll give this a solid 8. Very, very strong 8
Mm.
movie.
It's the same here. I give this one an 8 as well.
Cool.
So, I'm gonna give you now the full rating. So I did change this recently. So here's the rating. So I'm gonna go from the worst to the best, from bottom to top. So number 8,
Okay.
we've got Mank. Number 7, Nomadland. Number 6, Minari. Number 5, The Trial of the Chicago 7. Number 4, Promising Young Woman. Number 3, Judas and the Black Messiah. Number 2, The Father. And number 1, Sound of Metal. So that is my
That's a solid ranking.
Yeah.
We both had Promising Young Woman at 4 and The Father at 2. That's funny.
That's interesting, yeah. I didn't actually plan for that. That just happened. So, yeah, I think...
And Mank last.
And Mank last, yeah. I feel so bad, because I feel like it should have been better than it was, but it, unfortunately.
I know. Poor David.
Yeah.
It's not like this is the end of his career, though. I'm sure
he's still got a lot of time to finally win his Oscar.
Yeah.
So, before we wrap up, should we just sort of go through just sort of some of the major categories and just sort of give opinions, maybe predictions on what we think. Well, how about like what we want to win and what should win? Well, sorry.
Yeah.
What we think will win and what we would like to see win. So best picture.
I would love to see Minari win.
And I think I would love to see Sound of Metal win. What do you think is going to win?
I think maybe Sound of Metal might get it, or The Father.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I'm going Nomadland primarily based upon its performances at all the other awards ceremonies. It's just been winning at Golden Globe, at BAFTA, at Critics' Choice, at like every major awards body. So if it doesn't win, it'll be like a big shock. It'll be sort of like when Roma didn't win, kind of.
Yeah. I hope it doesn't though, honestly.
I don't think it should. It's one of the weaker nominees.
Definitely one of.
So then, best director. Do you know who's
Zhao.
Chloe Zhao's probably gonna win. Do you know who the nominees are for best director?
I think I do, but I don't have them in hand.
So Thomas Vinterberg for Another Round, which I haven't seen, but I've heard is really great, and I want to watch, and I'll try and watch that because the week after. So this is coming out. When this comes out, it'll be Monday, and then a week from now is the Oscars. So when the Oscars are, we might record something for that, just sort of reactions and opinions on what happened.
Yeah,
maybe.
Sure.
So I want to try and watch for Another Round before then, so I'm informed. So Thomas Vinterberg for Another Round, David Fincher for Mank, Lee Isaac Chung for Minari, Chloe Zhao Nomadland, Emerald Fennell Promising Young Woman.
I would love to see Emerald Fennell get it, but I'm thinking it will go to Chloe Zhao.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I also hope Promising Young Woman gets best screenplay.
Yeah.
I think it got that at the BAFTAs, which is cool.
Yeah. Did it? I feel like
I'm pretty sure.
I'm just gonna quickly check. Actually, I mean, I hope it did. It deserves. It deserves to win original screenplay rather. So then, I'm just gonna quickly get this up. So then we've got Best Actor, which I feel is gonna go to Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
As have you seen Ma Rainey's Black Bottom?
I have not, but I will before the Oscars.
I watched it because I thought it was going to get Best Picture nominated, which it didn't. I was probably going to see it anyway because I'd heard it was Chadwick Boseman's final film role, so I felt like I probably should see it anyway. So for Best Actor, we've got Riz Ahmed, Sound of Metal, Chadwick Boseman, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Anthony Hopkins, The Father, Gary Oldman, Mank, and Stephen Yeun in Minari.
I would love to see Riz Ahmed or Stephen Yeun, but I don't think Stephen Yeun will get it.
No. I would love Riz Ahmed to win. I think he should. He gave the best performance, but I think it's going to go to Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah. Which I would not be mad about.
I think Chadwick Boseman, to be fair, Riz Ahmed has got like the rest of his career to win. Chadwick
Yeah,
Boseman
true.
has unfortunately passed, so he's probably going to win. And it's a very good performance, so I think
I
if he
wouldn't.
does win,
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad.
it's
I
not a
wouldn't think it
bad.
was undeserved.
Yeah. So best actress Viola Davis, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which I feel should be supporting. It's a much more limited role than Chadwick Boseman, but
Mm.
it's a fine performance. Andra Day, The United States vs. Billie Holiday, Vanessa Kirby, Pieces of a Woman, Frances McDormand, Nomadland, and Carey Mulligan, Promising Young Woman. I think Carey Mulligan should win, and I think she has a decent shot of actually winning.
Yeah.
It's very up in the air because all these actresses have won at like different awards bodies. Like there's no like consistent through line.
Mm. I think Carey Mulligan is the only uh the only realistic option in my eyes.
Mm.
I think she was by far the best.
Mm.
Although I haven't seen the Billie Holiday movie,
Yeah, United States
but
was Billie Holiday and Ma Rainey. You have seen
mm,
Pieces of a Woman, right?
yes.
Mm. What did you think of that? Because I don't know if we'll do an
Oh,
episode on it, but I think I quite enjoyed it, but
I
I'm
thought
aware it's very divisive. It's a very divisive film.
yeah, Shia LaBeouf was very interesting casting choice because there's like a borderline sexual assault scene, and
Oh
it
yeah,
came out that he had like sexual assault allegations against him, which was
yeah, that
quite
was
interesting. Also,
very
he does a full frontal, which is
yeah, that was
interesting.
very interesting. I wasn't expecting that. Uh,
No, I was not either. I could
but
have gone without that scene, to be honest.
mm, but what did you think of
But
Vanessa Kirby in Pieces of a
I think
Woman?
her performance was probably the highlight of the movie
Mm.
by a lot.
I think
Um,
I think for me personally, before seeing Promising Young Woman, she was my favorite female
mm,
performance. I thought I would have liked to see her win, but Carey Mulligan
yeah,
has taken it and should win.
yeah, Carrie's definitely my first choice,
Mm.
and then probably Vanessa next.
Yeah. So supporting actor, Sacha Baron Cohen, Trial of Chicago 7, Daniel Kaluuya, Judas and the Black Messiah, Leslie Odom Jr., One Night in Miami. Have you seen One Night in Miami?
I have not seen One Night in Miami.
I watched it again because I thought it would get Best Picture nominated, and it didn't. But it's a pretty good film. It's better than than at least half, I would say, of the Best Picture nominees for
Mm.
me, in my personal opinion, anyway. Um, yeah, it's very good. Paul Raci, Sound of Metal, and Lakeith Stanfield, Judas and the Black Messiah, which was a shock because I thought he would have been campaigned in lead,
Yeah,
but he was supported, which is weird because he's the lead character. I would argue,
yeah.
like it's sort of about his sort of journey, I guess. Of those
I would
nominees,
probably
it's
I'd
kind
say
of
Paul Raci
yeah,
is
Paul
my first
Raci, Sound of
choice.
Metal. For me, it's kind of between Paul Raci and Daniel Kaluuya.
Mm. Yeah, he was also very strong.
Mm, yeah. I actually, there was someone who got snubbed for Best Actor, which really upset me. Delroy Lindo in The Five Bloods. I don't
Oh
know if you've
yeah,
seen that. Have you seen that?
I have.
Yes.
Excellent movie.
Delroy Lindo should have been nominated for Best Actor, and he didn't.
Yeah,
And it's so disappointing. Like
I completely forgot
I would
the Five
argue he
Bloods.
gave a better performance than at least Gary Oldman and Stephen Yeun, definitely. Like he should be
Yeah,
nominated,
I agree with that.
and he wasn't, which disappointed me. And because it's sort of from the beginning of the like he wasn't nominated at places like the Golden Globes or the Screen Actors Guild, so I was
Mm.
very worried that he would miss out, and he did unfortunately miss out, which is a massive shame because he should have been
Yeah.
nominated. Uh, so then there's supporting actress, a very interesting category this year. Um,
Mm.
Maria Bakalova, Borat subsequent movie film.
I haven't seen that
No.
yet, but
Glenn Close, Hillbilly Elegy. Olivia
all
Colman,
that.
The Father. Amanda Seyfried, Mank, and Yoon Yeojung, Minari.
Mm. I think Olivia Colman is definitely my first preference.
Olivia Colman is definitely the best performance, but I think Yoon Yeojung is gonna win. Well,
I
most
would not be
likely.
mad about that.
I think she's fine, but I just think Olivia Colman was better. What did
Yeah, I agree.
you? I also another massive snub for me anyway was Ellen Burstyn from Pieces of a Woman as well. I thought she was very good and had a very good
Yeah,
shot of getting in, but unfortunately did not. That might just
yeah,
be me
she
though.
was. I think she was definitely better than like Amy Seyfried.
Yeah, Amanda Seyfried. Yeah,
What's that her name?
Amanda Seyfried.
Amanda Seyfried.
um, yeah. So Ye Jung is gonna win most likely, and I would like to see Olivia Colman win.
Yeah,
For me.
I think Olivia's got a good chance.
She has a decent chance, but I don't know if she'd win because she won her first one so recently.
Mm,
I also think
yeah,
there is a slight possibility that Glenn Close could finally win her Oscar because she's never won.
we'll see.
But
Maybe.
yeah, the film's too divisive though, so she most likely won't.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many. I might just do original and adapted screenplay, and then maybe go. I don't know. I'll definitely do those two. I don't know if there's anything else major. Um, Actually, I'm just going to make a quick point about another category. Tenet was not nominated for best sound, which I'm glad for because the sound design was terrible.
Yeah, I could not agree more.
So I'm glad it didn't get nominated for sound.
I liked very little about Tenet. I feel like the Academy felt obligated to throw it in for something, so they put yeah, but it was not very strong in any particular area, I think, except for the sets.
So Tenet has got 2 Oscar nominations for visual effects and production design.
Which I think is fair, but I feel like it is a bit forced.
Yeah, I think
So,
the visual effects are pretty good. But, yeah. At least at least it didn't get picture.
True. Yeah.
So best original screenplay: Judas and the Black Messiah, Minari, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, The Trial of the Chicago 7, No Mank, which I was very surprised about because I thought that would get in, sort of based on the fact that it's written by David Fincher's late father. I just sort of thought it would get in. Of those, Sound of Metal is my favorite, but I think Promising Young Woman's probably going to win, which I'm not upset about.
I would hope so.
Promising Young Woman's a very good screenplay and is well deserved. Deserves to win. So I'm just going to do adapted screenplay and then finish because I'm kind of losing my voice and we've been recording for just over 2 hours now.
Oh wow.
So so for adapted screenplay, the nominees are Borat, subsequent movie film, The Father, Nomadland, One Night in Miami, and The White Tiger. Of those, I put The Father as my favorite, and the one I would like to see win, but I think Nomadland's got a very good shot of winning.
Yeah, which like bums me out a little bit because in my mind The Father was like miles ahead of Nomadland.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But
yeah, I'm thinking it probably will end up being Nomadland.
Yeah. I mean, I put all the nominees I have seen above Nomadland, Borat, movie film, and One Night in Miami. I put above Nomadland and The Father as well.
Yeah.
And actually, let's just quickly touch on animated feature. Have you seen any of the animated? So the nominees for animated feature
I've seen Soul,
Onward, Over the Moon, A Shaun the Sheep movie, Farmageddon, Soul, and Wolf Walkers. I've heard Wolf Walkers is quite good, so I'll try and watch that before the Oscars. And I've seen all of those except Shaun the Sheep movie.
Really scraping the bottom of the barrel there.
Yeah, they didn't have a great selection of nominees. They had a Studio Ghibli did a 3D animated film, and it is terrifying.
Yeah.
Like it looks awful, and it's not good apparently.
Yeah. I'm dreading seeing that.
I'm not gonna see it. I really just don't care enough to see it.
I feel like I have to because I love Studio Ghibli, but we'll see. I guess.
I'm gonna be honest. I've never seen a Studio Ghibli film.
No, never one. Are you kidding?
I've not seen a single Studio Ghibli film in my life.
That's crazy.
I don't know how I've avoided them for so long. Like a bunch of them are on Netflix. I just have not gone around to watching.
I think most of them are on Netflix.
Yeah. So, for anime film, I would put Soul to win, and Solar's my favorite as well.
Yeah, Soul was the only one I saw, so I guess I'll put that too.
Yeah. So that's pretty. Oh, sorry, that's pretty much it. Any final things to say before we wrap up?
Meanery for Oscars 2021.
Yeah, Sound of Metal. Let's go. Um,
Woo.
so yeah, thank you for listening to this episode. It was very long, a lot of discussion. My voice is kind of a bit sore. But yeah, thank you for joining me for this episode. This is very fun. And
it was a pleasure.
Yeah, and next week we're gonna do an Oscars reaction type thing to sort of talk about what won and everything. And I'm gonna actually watch the Oscars, so I'll be able to have like sort of in-depth like knowledge and sort of thoughts and everything as it happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, thank you for listening. Go back, listen to past episodes and any future episodes as well. Yeah, that's all really. Thank you. Goodbye, I guess.